Thereafter, in 2013, the Public Forum became exclusively a Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences. Over the years, the Public Forum has dealt with themes such as accountability in governance, genetically modified organisms, waste management, migration and development, sustainable development goals and national development, and African continental free trade area challenges and prospects. This year's theme is the impact of modern technology and artificial intelligence, beg your pardon, the impact of modern technology and artificial intelligence on education delivery. That the topic is an important one goes without saying, in view of the global debates, the current global debates about the potential risks and challenges of rapid technological developments and their implications for education. I have no doubt that the experts invited to speak on the various sub-themes, who will be introduced to you shortly, will do justice to their topics and make your time here with us worthwhile. This year, we are delighted to announce that we have received support from the Bank of Ghana to organize this event. We are thankful to them for the sponsorship. It is now my singular honor to introduce to you the chairman for this evening's session. He is Professor Kofi Opoku-Nti, President of the Academy and member of the Council of the Academy. He is a former Dean of the University of Ghana Business School, the first occupant of the Unilever Professorial Chair in Business at the University of Ghana, Legon, an immediate past Vice President of the Arts Section of the Academy. An outstanding scholar and researcher, Professor Opoku-Nti is a member of several academic societies, including the Public Choice Society, the Institute for Operations, Research and Management Sciences, and the European Association of Industrial Economists. Professor Kofi Opoku-Nti is an expert in the field of game theory and specialized in competition and strategy in business and economics. He is a member of the Presidential Advisory Council on Science, Technology and Innovation, the Academy's representative on the board of the National Vaccine Institute, Director of Universal Hospitals Group, Chairman of Claim Limited, and Chairman and Managing Director of Lemont Foods Limited. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Chairman for this evening. Thank you.
Honorary Secretary, it's a pleasure. And I welcome all of you. Vice Presidents of the Academy, former Presidents of the Academy, fellows, distinguished guests, students from the Accra College of Education, and everybody else here. Welcome to this 2023 Public Forum. It's a very topical and immediate relevant, a topic of immediate relevance. And I'm very delighted that our science section has organized this program and brought to us these distinguished speakers to address something that has made us all very, very curious. That is the impact of modern technology and artificial intelligence on education delivery. And I'm hopeful that the teachers and future teachers are going to pick a lot of ideas from the talk that we have today and throughout the rest of the program. Today's sub-theme is on the state and status of technology and artificial intelligence in education delivery in Ghana, challenges, opportunities, and prospects. And our first speaker will talk on where are we in technology and artificial intelligence in Ghana and in the sub-region. So basically, it's going to place us, tell us where we are, and the way forward. Our speaker is Professor Ferdinand Kachiriku of the Department of Computer Science, University of Ghana, Legon. Professor Kachiriku obtained his M.Eng with distinction in computer systems from Kharkov Polytechnic Institute in Ukraine in 1989, and a diploma in Russian language education from the same institute. In 1992, he was awarded an MSc in laser engineering and pulse power technology from St. Andrews University in Scotland. In 1996, he obtained a PGCE in mathematics education from King's College, London, and has the qualified teacher status, QTS, in the UK. Professor Kachiriku is an accomplished educationist, academic, and researcher. He has taught mathematics and computing across the educational spectrum in the UK, in primary and secondary schools, and sixth form to college. He taught and carried out research in Middlesex University for 10 years. In 2012, he was invited to join the Department of Computer Science, University of Ghana, where he has led a transformative agenda. As head of department, he led the introduction of postgraduate programs in computer science, MSc, MPhil, and PhD at the University of Ghana, and drove the research agenda at the department. His research has focused on the areas of mobile and wireless systems, and particularly Internet of Things, IoT, artificial intelligence, and data science. Professor Kachiriku's work has been published in leading international journals, including Journal of Lightwave Technology and Journal of Quantum Electronics. He was a Caprex Fellow at the Department of Engineering, University of Cambridge in 2014. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to welcome him to the podium. Welcome, Professor.
Okay, let me see how this works. Which of the buttons? Oh, is there? Okay. Right, thank you. Mr. President, past presidents, distinguished fellows of the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences, Honorable Chairperson, and I'll go Russian with Uvažajmi Tavarishi present in the audience. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It's a pleasure and an honor to be asked to come and share my thoughts on the state of education in Ghana and in the sub-region in the wake of the growing buzz surrounding AI, and in particular, the recent media trends relating to CGPT or ChatGPT. This is a very timely discussion, and I highly commend the organizing committee of the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences for coming up with this theme for discussion. I note that there will be 3 days of discussion relating to various aspects of AI in education. There's a high degree of connectivity between these topics. Needless to say, I will endeavor to stay within the current state of affairs whilst providing some background to how we got where we are. Right, so I will begin by providing a brief discussion on how it all began in the early 1950s. I will then briefly discuss key moments in the development of AI in the past 7 decades. I will then move on to consider how technology has been used in education over time and how AI is now being fused into education with computer-assisted instructional systems. Currently, it's known as intelligent tutoring systems. And the role of generative AI, which is a new term, generative AI, the role that generative AI is set to play. I'll then look at current research in computer science that is bound or that are bound to have profound impacts on education delivery. That is augmented reality and holoportation. These are terms that you may not have heard of, but there's current research going on in these areas that would, if successful, would totally transform the way we know education. Finally, I will touch on the all-important question of where we are in terms of AI research, and then a few concluding remarks. Right. Over the past decade, artificial intelligence, like a hailstorm, has been sweeping across the world, disrupting economic and social interactions. But unlike a hailstorm that would cause destruction, AI is engendering new developments and advances in the way things have been done. It is common to trace the emergence of AI to the work of Alan Turing, who, by the way, is regarded as a father of computer science, and the highest award in computer science is named after him. His story is quite interesting, so if you have time, you can Google him out and find out Alan Turing. He carried out a very famous experiment known as the Turing test, which was a thought experiment. I'll talk a bit about that later. The concept of AI, that is machines having intelligence, as in the human capability of acquiring, learning, understanding, and applying knowledge and skills to new situations, however, predates Turing. Leibniz had earlier considered a scenario of a machine that thinks and has perception. Please note that at the time that Leibniz was doing this in the 1600s, there was no electronics. Everything was mechanical. So his thoughts were focused on how mechanical things, mechanical machines work. And therefore, my question would be, what Leibniz said, would he have said the same things was he alive today, where we no longer have moving mechanical parts, but we have electronic things? So what he says is that, moreover, it must be confessed that that perception and that which depends upon it are inexplicable on mechanical grounds. That is to say, by means of figures and motions. And supposing there were a machine so constructed as to think, feel, and have perception, it might be conceived as increase in size while keeping the same proportions, so that one might go into it as into a meal. That being so, we would, on examining its interior, find only parts which work one upon the other, and never anything by which to explain perception. This, in simple terms, that is in simple substance and not a compound or in a machine that perception must be sought for. That is, in a simple substance and not in a compound or in a machine that perception must be sought for. In simple terms, what he was trying to say was that a machine, no matter how well it performs, remains a machine and is devoid of perception. Okay? Turing's work was actually to challenge this assertion of Leibniz, and his work laid the foundations for the modern developments in AI. At the core of Turing's arguments is the ability to differentiate between a machine and a human being from responses that they provide to questions posed to them. So, according to Turing, if you had a machine and a human being in two rooms and you don't know what is in which room, and you pose questions to them, and you cannot tell if it's a machine or a human being, then we would have developed artificial intelligence. By the time that Turing was doing this work, the term artificial intelligence hasn't been coined yet. Since then, there has been stupendous developments where computers are outperforming humans in many areas, including the Deep Blue, which is a machine beating a world champion in a chess game. So the fundamental concept of artificial intelligence as proposed by Turing was challenged by Searle in another thought experiment, the Chinese room argument, which simply stated is that if a person can be given an algorithm to enable him translate and respond to queries in Chinese language, then that does not make that person a speaker of Chinese language, as they are simply following an algorithm without having to actually understand anything of the language. So, according to Searle, a machine being able to respond to things doesn't make it intelligent. So intelligence is something that is innate to humans. So that's Turing and right. Now, what I would like to see, of course, we have seen various responses that have been put forward to counter the Chinese room argument of Searle. It must be stated, though, that intelligence is simply not our ability to learn, acquire, understand, and apply knowledge to new situations. Very often, it is inspired. Yes, we can program a machine to perform various activities such as painting and artwork, right? To display various forms of emotions, sadness, laughter, joy. We can program them to do those things. But would we be able to program them to be inspired? That remains to be seen. Interesting as this philosophical discourse might be, the purpose of this talk is not about the philosophical question of consciousness and mind and intelligence, rather about the human-like capabilities that machines are increasingly being endowed with, and the practical impacts it is having on society. Importantly, how we in the developing world and in Ghana are exploiting these new developments. I wonder if we can play this. Here's a short video clip that shows demonstrates, or there was an interview with a robot. And you'll be surprised that, can you please play that? Okay.
For starters, what should I call you?
I'm Chloe. And you, what's your name?
Oh, John. My name is John.
Delighted to meet you, John.
Could you tell us a little about yourself and what you can do, Chloe?
Of course. I'm the first personal assistant built by CyberLife. I take care of most everyday tasks like cooking, housework, or managing your appointments, for example.
And I understand you're the first android to have passed the Turing test. Could you tell us a little more about that?
I really didn't do much, you know. I just spoke with a few humans to see if they could tell the difference between me and a real person. It was a really interesting experience.
But this is the first time in history that man has created a machine more intelligent than himself. I gather your brain can perform several billion operations per second. Is that right?
Absolutely, but I only exist thanks to the intelligence of the humans who designed me. And you know, they have something I could never have.
Really? And what's that?
A soul.
I mean, that is mind-boggling. That's a machine, that's a robot, and you'd never be able to tell. Now, these robots are now being designed with human-like skin. I mean, that if you touch it, you wouldn't know the difference. So now, is Turing right? If you sat somewhere and this person was being interviewed, you would never know, right? And the answers that they provide, right? So, now what's happened? So since Turing's time, we can look at the stages of the development in AI from the early 1950s. So there have been, since Turing's time, there have been many developments. The key moments in the 1950s are the science fiction stories of Isaac Asimov and debates within the scientific community on the best approach to developing such systems. The stories of Asimov were centered around intelligent machines and imagined their future. These stories were popular and thought-provoking and inspired a new generation of robotic scientists. But Asimov is best remembered for formulating the 3 laws of robotics aimed at stopping machines from taking over our lives. 1, a robot may not injure a human being or through inaction allow a human being to come to harm. 2, a robot must obey orders given it to a human being except where such orders will conflict with the first law. 3, a robot must protect its own existence as long as such protection does not conflict with the first or second law. I very much doubt if governments, institutions would allow these laws to be implemented. We can see that already happening today in the war that is raging in Ukraine, where artificial intelligence is being used to control drones to cause destruction. So there's no doubt that governments will not follow this, right? For security reasons, they wouldn't. There isn't that trust. Now, the defining moment came at the Dartmouth Conference, which was organized at the University of Dartmouth by McCarthy and his team. And this was a conference at which the term artificial intelligence was first coined. At this conference, a debate raged on the best approach to tackling problems in the field. There was a top-down approach versus the bottom-up approach. The top-down approach favored pre-programming computers with rules that mimic human behavior, while the bottom-up approach required that the concept of neural network is employed. Now, the top-down approach, which was championed by the organizers of this conference, Marvin Minsky and John McCarthy, won in the end. And they went on to get substantial funding from the US government to develop systems that might be employed in the Cold War. Right. So, in the 1960s, we saw more science fiction stories, but this time, it wasn't in books, but it came on the silver screen. One popular film was A Space Odyssey by Clark, and this featured an intelligent computer called HAL 9000. The key things that came forth from the film was the idea that machines could be programmed to express emotions. The film also captured fears that people harbored about these machines turning on their creators and wreaking havoc on society. Now, some researchers, Charles Rosen, Niels Nelson, had spent 6 years working on the development of a new robot called Shaki. It was a general purpose robot, and there's a picture of the robot, by the way. This robot was revealed in 1969, and it was developed at the Stanford Research Institute. Shaki demonstrated that the predictions being made about the capabilities of robots were far from being achieved. Developed to operate as a mobile robot, Shaki was supposed to build a special map of its environment, surroundings, and independently make decisions. It was very slow, taking up to about an hour to decide on the next move, right? So people were disappointed. Nothing was coming out. The 1970s became known as the winter of AI, where nothing really happened. Then in the nothing happened in the 1980s. People were disappointed, funding dried up. But in the 1980s, we saw a re-emergence of interest in AI with the development of expert systems, which mimic the way human experts will make decisions in a given situation. These systems were designed to solve specific problems. First, had to be programmed with only the rules of the specific problem. And therefore, businesses saw and got an interest, and they funded it. The Japanese government spent over $400 million on the 5th generation computer project funding this type of systems. The 1990s, where we saw more advances, but the key thing, two key things. A gentleman known as Brooks published a paper titled Elephants Don't Play Chess, where he successfully argued that the top-down approach was actually limiting developments, and therefore there was a need to adopt a bottom-up approach where we can have independent behavior-generating modules that would cooperate to solve a problem. The same 1990s, 1997, we saw a machine developed by IBM beating the reigning world champion of chess, Garry Kasparov, in a widely publicized chess competition. Right? And so that was great. Then, the turn of the century, with the 21st century, we can describe that as a golden age of AI, with big data becoming a topical issue, and there doesn't appear to be a single area where AI cannot be applied. Robots that can help around the home appeared, robots for military application, bomb sniffing robots, bomb disposal robots, speech recognition software. All these things are increasingly being deployed on handheld devices. In 2001, Watson, a machine developed by IBM, took part in a quiz show, and it routed the two all-time best performance of the show. In this show, there were quizzes and various types of riddles, and the machine defeated the two all-time best performers. Driverless cars are making an appearance on the stage, and progress in the field of AI has simply been what? Phenomenal. Right, so this is what has been happening in the area of AI. There's still something else that I haven't touched on yet, which is generative AI. I will discuss a little bit later, but I want to turn my attention now to, because this discussion is about technology, so I want to turn my attention to technology, how technology had been coming up. Even before formal education as we know it today, technology has been central to impacting knowledge. A primary role of educational systems around the world has always been to prepare students for the job market, for existing job roles and for emerging job roles. And I might say to equip them with analytical skills. We'll see later on that today computers have those analytical skills. They can do the thinking that we are preparing students to do. So then, what is our role? Educational systems had been focused on a sort of central authority where there's a teacher in the middle and that he gives the information to the students, and that is it. I'm the teacher, I tell you this is what you do, and then you take it, go and learn and come back. This is what education has been about for a long time. Right. So we want to briefly examine how technology has evolved over time, from the days of the clay tablets to the use of portable mobile devices of today, and the cloud as a repository of information, and the use of bots to retrieve such information and present that information in any desired format. So we had the magic lantern, a primitive form of the slide projector. It made its appearance in around 1800s. The very first magic lanterns were illuminated by candles and were used for entertainment purposes. But gradually they found their way into education and into classroom. And then we had the chalkboard and the pencil making an appearance. Then came the radio, which revolutionized the way that education was delivered. On-air classes were now possible. The overhead projector made an appearance in 1930. The ballpoint pen, it was invented in 1940. Headphones came in 1950. And each of these technologies had an impact on education. We had a videotape coming in 1951, which means that lessons can be pre-recorded and distributed and watched over and over again. Then the photocopier came in, and this allowed material to be reproduced very cheaply and distributed. In around 1972, we had a handheld calculator coming into use, which allowed mathematical computations to be made quickly. Personal computers made their appearance in 1980. And these personal computers changed many things, right? They facilitated work, they allowed computing students to do their work from the comfort of their homes, but they lacked one thing: connectivity. Then the internet wasn't there, so there was no connectivity. But the one singular event that changed everything was the development of the hypertext markup language, which gave birth to the internet and the World Wide Web. This development, coupled with the availability of portable computing devices, the classroom became a hotbed for technological advancements, enabling education to be delivered remotely to all over the world. There were social platforms emerged that enable information to be instantly shared. We had academic social networks such as ResearchGate, Academia, Google Scholar, and many others had appeared. We had MOOCs now, massive open online courses where universities offer their courses online to students. And the internet begins to serve as a repository of vast amounts of information, effectively an online library. And this has led to the transformation of the centralized model of education, where the instructor is no longer the sole possessor of the knowledge. The knowledge is now being distributed across. This new model of education was given greater impetus during the COVID years. Institutions scrambled to go online and to deliver courses online with mixed results. They invested in the necessary infrastructure which will enable them to deliver online learning. But to provide online learning, some necessary and sufficient conditions had to be met. So while these investments were necessary, were they sufficient? That's a question. In my considered opinion, they weren't sufficient. You see, for students to access online programs, a laptop and a fast internet connectivity will be a basic requirement. In a developing country such as Ghana, poverty is real, and many students can't afford a good smartphone, let alone a laptop. And then for courses that are delivered online, as happened during the COVID times, these students will simply be left behind. And students come from all over the country, and not every part of our country is well served by internet service providers, right? So internet connection across the country is uneven and patchy. So for students who come from remote areas, accessing the learning materials provided online was a real challenge, even if they had the laptops. And we saw the impact during the assessment period. So student assessment in the face of patchy and unreliable internet connectivity coupled with unstable power supply proved to be a major challenge, and another challenge was the preparedness of lecturers to deliver online learning. Teaching online is unlike, nothing like teaching face-to-face, right? Preparing the learning material, the format of the learning material, for them to have an impact must be significantly different from the traditional forms. In many instances, instructors were oblivious to the need for a different approach to teaching in these new environments. So, artificial intelligence as a discipline has made tremendous strides in the past 7 decades. It has found application in many diverse fields and undoubtedly is having a profound impact on how education is delivered. There are many ways in which AI is envisaged to be applied in education. The main emphasis will be to improve teaching and learning, and this can be achieved through the use of intelligent tutoring systems. And then it will depend on language processing, including the writing of essays, knowledge representation, also in the development of instructional systems. So in so doing, it is hoped that AI will help deliver personalized instruction and enhance student experience. One of the problems that have been faced is, okay, how do we develop these personalized instruction systems for people who, without a computing background, so they can easily use it? One, the early systems that we had were standalone systems. And these systems did not take into account how the students would arrive at an answer in providing their feedback, but only relied on the final solution. The early systems were also not connected to the internet and therefore were limited to what was on the system. But in the last decade, the situation has drastically changed. In a very interconnected world, we leverage on advances in such areas as knowledge, machine learning, and natural language processing and reasoning. These systems must not only have domain knowledge, that is knowledge of the subject area, but must also have knowledge of the students and also knowledge of pedagogical strategies. Such systems must be designed to support various models of learning, including collaborative learning, individual learning, one-to-one learning, and learning through examples. It has been shown, researchers have worked on this and shown that these systems may successfully be used to support students with special needs, such as those with sensory impairments, as well as students with attention deficit hyperactive disorders, students on the autistic spectrum disorders. They've also been used in other disciplines like physics, mathematics, and engineering. In physics and engineering, institutions are resorting to the use of virtual laboratories and in some cases remote laboratories. And these are, the remote laboratories are actually physical laboratories which are located in a remote area, but the student can get access to it and perform the experiments on it remotely. Whilst virtual laboratories are simulated environments, and this can be either hosted within the institution or at a remote location. This allows institutions to save on cost. They no longer have to invest in expensive laboratory equipment, and some of those equipment, science equipments, can be very, very expensive, in millions of dollars. And so having access to the remote ones offers them a great opportunity for the students to acquire the same skills as those who are working on it. Generative AI, and in particular, ChatGPT, has gained a lot of attention this year. The concept, however, isn't new. It was first introduced in a paper in 2017 by Vaswamy. Basically, GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer, which is a state-of-the-art AI model. And it's a language processing model with a simplified transformer. Right. Initially, the way these systems work was they worked on what we call recurrence and convolutions. But these researchers suggested a new approach of, rather than recurrence and convolutions, they suggested that we should approach the problem with simply attention to detail, attention to the problem. And these had radically decreased the computational time required to train the systems. So since its introduction in 2017, it has gradually been gaining public attention, and in 2023 caused a public stir, which resulted from the unveiling of various chatbots, especially ChatGPT. And the impact that this technology is said to have on business and society, and on education in particular, cannot be underestimated. And I'll show you examples of what this ChatGPT can do. So generative AI technologies are language processing engines which have been trained with huge sets of test data that helps them to what? Helps the system to rate the significance of any information that is provided with. So the training data set combines both accurate and inaccurate data. And at the prompt, these systems can write essays for you, generate reports, edit grammar, and a whole lot. In fact, they can write course outlines. They can do practically everything for you. And this has led to some educators calling for them to be what? Banned. Of course, the idea of banning things in the classroom is not new, as you all know. Right from the slide rule, no students will be lazy, we shouldn't allow slide rules in the classroom, to calculators, no, we should ban calculators. So it's not new. Right. I'm not sure you can see this very well, but this is an example. In fact, I owe this to a former student of mine who is now a professor at Ajman University in United Arab Emirates, Professor Ashad, who did this work. What he did was he had access to ChatGPT and he posed some questions. And the very first one, he asked the system to write a letter to students reminding them of an assignment due date, right? And that they must submit on a particular platform. And that was a response of the system. I mean, if you read it, it's brilliant. You'd never know that it was written by a machine. So all he said was, the query is at the top, write an email to students to remind them to submit assignments number 1 on Moodle by the due date of 15 February. Stress the importance of submitting assignments on and must be submitted on Moodle, and inform no late submission will be accepted. And the response, when you read it, you didn't know that it was written by a machine. I mean, it was just brilliant. Then in the second example, he did many examples, but I'm only showing you one. In the second example, students are taking taking tests, they have their results, which is in a spreadsheet. So he asked the ChatGPT to write a MATLAB code that will enable it to read the data from the Excel spreadsheet, calculate the averages of the student grades, plot the graphs, the distribution of grades, and then this thing generated a code for it that works, So, I mean, it's like teaching a programming class and I ask the students to write a code to do something. They go to ChatGPT and say, okay, write it. They just copy and paste a question there, and ChatGPT will do the answer for them, So there are various examples. This one is about generating multiple choice questions for students in anatomy. The next one is to generate sample questions for a course in accounting. So sample questions. And then the last one I have here is to write a course outline for a course in signal processing. So it does that. ChatGPT is able to do all of these things. So then, fear. What's the use of lecturers? Right? I mean, we are training students to have analytical skills. The computer can do these things. So what use are we? I ask you a question, you pose that question to ChatGPT and it gives you the answer. What this means is that we need to rethink how we carry out our education, whether the sort of questions we ask are the ones we should be asking. There must be a radical rethinking. It's not just a matter of just saying, okay, do it this way. There needs to be research. We need to actually research into this and understand, okay, what is the best way of doing this, rather than just ad hoc things. Now, there are things that are coming up. Augmented reality. Augmented reality is a field of computer science research in which real-world environments are enhanced with computer-generated imagery, which are linked to specific locations. Thus, the perceptions of the real world are seamlessly overlaid, right, with digital content. So apart from visual perceptions, other sensory faculties such as tactile, olfactory, and audio may be incorporated into this. And there are many possible areas of application of AR. And its application in education is very exciting. So through AR, augmented reality, educators can effectively engage, stimulate, and motivate students, enabling them to have a real-life experience of what is going on. What I have there is a Jewish proverb, right, that sort of captures the essence of augmented reality. So tell me something I would forget. Show me something I may remember. Involve me in something and I will understand. So in augmented reality, you're actually involving the student. The student actually experiences it, can sort of practically feel and touch it. Then the other area, which can we please show this video as well, is holoportation. Right? I wouldn't talk about that, I'll just show you the video. The volume.
Space to another in real time. Hey Sergio, how does it feel like to be holoported?
It feels great to be holoported.
So Sergio is to wear his HoloLens device, and I'm going to wear mine. We can see each other in full 3D in real time. We can interact and communicate as if we're co-present. Sergio, can you walk around my space? Can you walk behind this chair? So we're doing everything to give the impression that Sergio and I are present in the same space. Sergio, let's just do a high five. That's great. Thank you, Sergio. We call this technology holoportation. Now, to make all this happen, we've had to create a new type of 3D capture technology. I'm surrounded by these 3D cameras that we've developed in our team. Each of them is capturing me from a separate viewpoint, and we're fusing this data together to create a temporally consistent model, as you can see reconstructed live behind me. Now, the camera that's filming me has a HoloLens tracking system attached, and this allows us to take these 3D models and composite them in real time into the real world, as you can see here. And that gives you a sense of the fidelity of the reconstructions that we can achieve. Once we have these reconstructions, we can texture them. We can then compress the data and transmit the data over to the other side. Over on the other side, a user wearing a HoloLens can see these remote participants live in their space as if they're co-present. And that's what we're showing you picture in picture. Now imagine using this type of capture technology to connect with family members who are thousands of miles away. And that's exactly what we're going to demonstrate to you right now. My daughter is stood in a similar capture rig somewhere else in our lab. And she's going to holoport into my space, and I'm going to interact with her wearing my HoloLens.
Hi, Bob, I miss you.
Hey, Lilia, I miss you too.
When you coming home?
I'm coming home very soon. Let me get out of your way. Hey, Lilia, you can only hear me, you can't see me, but what are these toys?
I have toys to show you. This one is name is Elmo.
Elmo?
And he can sing.
He can sing, wow. And what about the other one?
The other one is called Tina, and I like it because it has different stuff.
Well, that's so cool. So Lilia, can you climb up on this chair that's behind you?
Climb?
Yeah, climb up. Be very careful. Now I'm going to count to 3 and I want you to jump. 1, 2, 3, jump! That was so cool. Oh, let me get out of your way again.
I like you so much.
I love you too.
Come home soon.
I'll be home very soon. Bye-bye.
Well, I'll leave it at that. Now you can imagine, we could have been having this meeting with each of you in your homes, all of you being holoported into this space, and you have the feeling that we are all together. Right, so what it means is that our classrooms can become virtual classrooms where we all holoport in the space, and then we have our lectures. You know, I mean, it's amazing, right? It's still in the research phase, but this is where things are going. So my question is, what impact is this going to have on education if it becomes a reality? Right, so now I finally come to where we are in computer science research. I did this, I got this information from Shimago, which is a research database of publications in the field of computer science. Right, now if you look, between 1996 and 2022, the total number of publications coming in all areas of computer science was 2,445. That is in Ghana. In Nigeria, it was 11,000. In Kenya, 1,976. South Africa, it was about 30,000. Britain is about 406,000 publications. The US, 150,000. And we are struggling at what? 2,000 and... in fact, when I came to Ghana in 2012, when I did this, we only had about 240 publications coming from Ghana in 2012. I mean, where are we? What are we doing? And actually, at that time, today, a quarter of those publications are classified as miscellaneous, which means they don't fit into any specific category of computer science. So it were like just something. You cannot classify them as either networking or AI or HCI. You can't classify them. So they were not serious publications. Right. And in fact, you can't even see, if you do this, you can't see where we are. We are nowhere on the graph. We are practically nowhere. And in this one, for us to appear, I've removed US and Britain from the graph so that we can begin to appear a little bit on the graphs, right? So I then look at, so that was computer science in general. Then I look at AI, right? AI research in the field of AI, what is the topic of today, right? Now, if you look, 1996, we only had one publication in Ghana. Between 97 and 2005, 0 publications coming from Ghana. And you can look at the other countries, yeah? Now, in 2018, something changed, right? Something changed. Google came and opened an office here in Accra, right? And so there was some interest. And so people began to look at it. So you can see that from 2018 onwards, 2019, we had 41, 36, 77. So the publications begin to increase. But still, we are nowhere near, right, what needs to be done. So I've shown this again on this graph so that you see what is happening, right? Let no one deceive you that we are not competing, right? Education, I know I'm running out of time, and therefore I'll just end very quickly, right? Education is a bedrock upon which societies and nations are built. A nation's level of development is determined largely by the quality of its educational system. There's little doubt that bringing AI into the classroom will provide institutions of learning with innovative ways to engage and support student learning process, including assessment of learning and skills acquired and so on. It would offer institutions opportunities to really tailor the learning material to the needs of individual learners. The emergence of ChatGPT is going to have a significant impact on what we teach and how this is taught, and how we should be assessing students. But there are very many important questions that need to be explored in the wake of the emergence of AI. We need to understand how AI first is changing the educational landscape. We also need to have clarity on the extent to which AI should be used within the classroom. How should instructors use AI to improve upon their teaching techniques? How can students use AI to help in their learning? And then one important area where AI is said to have significant impact will be on personalized interactive tutoring. And the machine learning can leverage on its powerful algorithms to help in personalize this, to understand, first of all, to understand the learner. Yeah? So the machine can understand the learner, because today if you go on Google to look for something, it does recommendations for you because it knows what you are interested in. So recommender systems. So with machine learning, we can personalize the systems to understand the learner and then develop ways to help that person, that individual. But if AI were to succeed, is there the possibility that it will eventually replace the lecturers in the classroom? It may seem that AI in education is all-powerful and ubiquitous, but there are some important observations. So in a face-to-face dialogue with students, human teachers can understand the student's tone and inflections within a conversation, and this will help guide the sort of feedback given to the student whilst the discussion is ongoing. Our current AI systems are not able to do that. So this will lead to them making mistakes regarding the decisions that they make, which pertains to the students. But I dare say this situation will not remain unchanged. The systems will improve with time. And as AI technology becomes more intelligent and capable than teachers, will it replace teachers in the job market in the future? What role should teachers take in the era of AI technology? Would there be any concerns regarding ethical considerations in the use of AI? These are just a few questions that need to be explored, and there are not any easy answers, and we must collectively search for the solutions. Development doesn't just happen, right? It is a deliberate, systematic effort driven by what? Policy at the very highest level. And if we are to succeed, then we need governments to engage more with academic institutions. And I'll end where I started with Turing and the Enigma machine. When nations face challenges, they turn to the academic institutions for solutions. During the Second World War, Britain, confronted with insensate German bombardments of their island, needed to understand and decode German communication. They were intercepting the communications, but they couldn't decode them. What did they do? They went around their universities, picked the young scientists, mathematicians, went and camped them outside in a place called Bletchley Park and gave them the task. We need you to what? Break the German code. And this team was headed by Alan Turing. And then they built the Enigma machine, right? And with the Enigma machine, it was like the British sitting in the command headquarters of the Germans. They knew everything that was happening, right? So when nations face challenges, we must turn to the institutions for what? Solutions. After all, these institutions are funded by public money. So if they have problems, the public has a problem, go to the institutions and ask them to give you solutions. Thank you very much for your attention.
very inspiring presentation. We shall comment on it later. The second speaker is going to talk about the benefits and drawbacks of technology and artificial intelligence in education delivery. So that is the caveat to what he just talked about. The possible misuse and possible intrigue that could occur in the educational system. Our speaker is Dr. Eliel Kielsen, Department of Computer Engineering, Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, Kumasi. He's a senior lecturer in the Department of Computer Engineering at KNUST. He obtained his PhD in computer engineering at KNUST and a postgraduate certificate in instructional design and performance improvement from Arizona State University in the USA. He has a wide range of research interests with a focus on blockchain solutions for the Internet of Things-based systems and the integration of artificial intelligence in blockchain technology. He has published several papers in these research areas and also serves as a reviewer for some scientific journals. Eliel Kielsen is a member of the distributed IoT platform, Privacy and Edge Intelligent Research Lab, which is dedicated to researching blockchain solutions and applying them to address critical issues in sub-Saharan Africa. Furthermore, he's a member of the Responsible Artificial Intelligence Lab, where he collaborates with other researchers to develop AI-based solutions and strengthen capacities in the responsible use of AI. Additionally, he's a professional member of the Ghana Institute of Engineers and a member of the Internet Society in Ghana. He has over a decade of experience working in the field of education. So I think we're going to get a very good presentation from him. Thank you.
All right, good evening. All right. So thank you very much for the honor to inviting me to this program. Right. So good evening once again, Mr. President, and our distinguished guests, and our fellow educators, and our fellow learners. Probably we are all learners. We are learning today, right? So permit me to stand on all the protocols that have already been observed as I introduce to you the topic of my presentation that is titled, The Benefits and Drawbacks of Technology and Artificial Intelligence in Education Delivery. Today, we embark on a captivating journey into the realm of education in the digital age. We find ourselves at the crossroads of immense possibilities, just like was described here, and present challenges as well as technology and artificial intelligence redefine the way we teach and learn. In this topic, we'll explore the state and status of technology and AI in education delivery with a particular focus on the benefits they bring and the drawbacks we must navigate. Let me be quick to mention that while AI is generally classified as a type of technology, particularly one which we often call a disruptive technology, for the purposes of this talk or for this lecture, I will distinguish between the two terms to underscore the significance of AI on its own. Education as the cornerstone of societal progress has always evolved in tandem with technological advancements. However, the rapid pace at which technology and AI are transforming education today demands our attention and careful consideration. It's a pivotal moment where we witness the unprecedented democratization of knowledge, the personalization of learning experiences, just like we just heard, and the promise of a more inclusive and accessible education for all. Yet we must also grapple with the concerns about equitable access, ethical considerations, and striking the delicate balance between human connection and technological integration. So today we'll delve into the remarkable benefits of technology and AI in education delivery, from bridging the educational divide between urban and rural areas, between developed worlds and developing worlds, to empowering personalized learning experiences tailored to individual students' needs. We will also explore the transformative power of these tools. We'll give some examples just like were illustrated here. We'll examine how technology enhances teaching and learning, facilitates efficient assessment, and expands educational horizons like never before. But alongside the promises which we would speak about, there lies some significant challenges and considerations. We'll explore the drawbacks of technology as well, such as the digital divide and the urgent need to ensure equitable access to educational resources. We'll discuss the importance of pedagogical adaptation and teacher training to harness the full potential of these tools. We'll also delve into the ethical concerns surrounding data privacy and biases as we find in AI, as well as the fears of losing our creativity and imaginations to AI. So let us embark on this enlightening exploration together. I would first want to talk about education. To some extent, we all agree that education holds a transformative power to our economy. Growing economies like Ghana have put in quite a number of efforts to ensure that education is accessible to all, because it serves as a driving force behind our economic growth, equipping individuals with the skills and knowledge needed to thrive in a rapidly evolving world. So, various laws have been enacted, policies have been implemented, and significant budgets have been allocated to this all-important subject of education. Even though these conventional approaches, educational reforms, and the provision of physical infrastructures have done a good job at establishing a good foundation, they fall short in addressing the current demands of today's learners. Today's learners crave improved access to up-to-date information, personalized learning, enhanced creativity, and professional development, among others. It necessitates that we move beyond these conventional approaches and integrate innovative tools and technologies such as learning management systems, online collaborative tools, multimedia, and other tools, just like you mentioned, some generative AI tools. These tools and platforms have been proven to have the potential to transform the learning experience of today's learners, making education more interactive, engaging, and customized to their individual needs. They serve as a bridge between our traditional educational approaches and the evolving needs of learners and educators. By welcoming these advancements, we can establish an educational ecosystem that is responsive, well-equipped to prepare our students for the dynamic challenges and abundant opportunities of the 21st century. So, having recognized the importance of technology and AI in education delivery, it is crucial for us to delve into the specific benefits that the educational landscape in Ghana can reap from their full integration. By exploring these advantages, we gain a comprehensive understanding of how these advancements can positively impact teaching and learning. Additionally, we'll examine some of these current tools and platforms that provide these benefits. So let me start with the benefits of AI and technology in education delivery. The first benefit I want to talk about is the ease of access to quality education. Among several benefits, I believe that the first and foremost benefits that technology and AI afford learners and educators is the ease to access quality education. Through various platforms and tools powered by the internet, learners now have the flexibility to access information and educational content that was previously restricted by geographical barriers. The internet has effectively eliminated these barriers, reducing the impact of limited infrastructure and scarcity of qualified teachers in certain areas. With technological tools and systems, the divide between developed and developing worlds in terms of education is being bridged. Students, regardless of their location, can now tap into endless educational resources at the click of a button. So now you can imagine a student living in a remote village who can now access educational resources, curated courses, and even remotely interact with teachers through online learning platforms. These platforms break geographical limitations. They empower students in these rural areas to receive an education of the same quality as their counterparts in urban areas. Khan Academy is one such technological resource which provides free access to curated online learning resources, making high-quality educational content available to students worldwide. The experiences of the recent COVID-19 pandemic brought to the limelight some noteworthy virtual classroom and video conferencing tools which have emerged as game changers. These tools have radically changed the delivery and access to education as they afford learners and educators the ability to have real-time communication or collaboration. Through live interactive sessions, instructors can provide quality instruction and ensure active participation from learners. Mobile applications have also come to the fore as technological tools that can be leveraged to overcome educational barriers. For example, the Vodafone Instant Schools mobile app is a prime example that provides students with educational materials, quizzes, and interactive exercises at minimal or no data cost while using the Vodafone network. Several examples exist with the other networks, just in case I just speak of Vodafone. Similarly, platforms like Coursera and Udemy have made it easy for learners to access high-quality educational resources via their smartphones. The speaker before my presentation actually spoke about personalized learning, and I just want to touch a bit on personalized learning. Personalized learning is one of the main advantages of technology and AI today. It acknowledges that with personalized learning, it acknowledges that every student possesses unique strengths, weaknesses, and learning preferences. By combining technology and AI, suitable learning experiences can be designed and adapted to meet individual students' requirements, leading to improved outcomes and greater student engagement. At the forefront of this revolution are what we call adaptive learning platforms. These platforms utilize AI algorithms to analyze student performance and adjust instruction based on their individual needs. By adapting the content and pacing to each student, adaptive learning platforms ensure that every learner receives a tailored educational experience. For example, a student who is struggling with math concepts can receive additional practice and support in those specific areas, progressing at their own pace, and at the end of the day, being able to achieve their outcomes. By providing students with choices, aligning projects with their interests, and allowing them to explore their passions, their motivation to learn is heightened, leading to deeper understanding and improved outcomes. A typical educational platform which integrates AI to provide personalized language learning is Duolingo. With this integration, it adapts lessons and exercises based on learners' proficiency and progress. This personalized approach enhances student engagement, ensures that each student receives the appropriate level of challenge, and promotes better learning outcomes, like I mentioned before. Gamification also has emerged as a highly effective tool in personalized learning. This utilizes a game element, making the educational experience more enjoyable and engaging. Popular platforms such as Kahoot and Classcraft make use of gamification principles to motivate students, reinforce learning, and create a positive classroom environment where learners are fully immersed in the learning experience. The next benefit, or the third benefit I would like to talk about, is increased efficiency in assessment and grading. Efficient assessment and timely feedback play crucial roles in education delivery. The traditional assessment methods sometimes can be quite time-consuming, speaking from the background as a teacher, and often may not provide prompt feedback to students to track their learning progress. So in dealing effectively with this issue, technology and AI offer innovative solutions that can streamline assessments, provide immediate feedback, and enable data-driven decision-making. AI-powered automated grading systems have revolutionized the assessment process. They can efficiently evaluate student work, saving educators valuable time, which can be allocated to providing instruction and personalized support. Students also benefit from quick feedback, allowing them to identify areas of improvement and make the needed adjustments. Learning analytics and data-driven insights are essential for tracking student progress and identifying areas of improvement. Gathering and analyzing educational data gives these educators valuable insight into student performance. Effective implementation of learning analytics leads to improved student outcomes, reduced achievement gaps, and informed decision-making for students and student management bodies. Data-driven decision-making applies not only to individual students, but also informs instructional strategies, pedagogies to be used in a class, curriculum development, and resource allocation. So by analyzing this data on a broader scale, it helps us to identify these trends and make changes where need be. For the very last benefit I would like to speak about is on creative and innovative tools. A bit of that was already covered in the first lecture. In the realm of education, innovative and creative tools have actually transformed the way content is being created. Among these tools are generative AI tools. Coming in, hearing how the discussion had gone so far, I was just imagining that probably if all we did was to even write ChatGPT as the main banner, I'm sure this place will be very full, because that is now the buzzword. And so generative AI tools like ChatGPT have emerged as a particular powerful force that are offering unique advantages in the delivery of quality education. So by exploiting the capabilities of artificial intelligence, these tools afford new and imaginative learning experiences, as well as facilitating the creating of educational content and encouraging the development of critical thinking and problem-solving skills. We have applications such as ArtsBreeder and DeepArt, which help in empowering learners to create original artwork by manipulating and combining existing images. They pick images, put a number of images together. Imagine that we wanted to create an image of Kwame Nkrumah riding maybe by the Flagstaff House. So we take a picture of Kwame Nkrumah, we pick a quick picture of the Flagstaff House, and we combine them and provide it to these AI platforms, and they are able to generate an image of Kwame Nkrumah actually riding in front of the Flagstaff House without you seeing any differences in these. So those examples, ArtsBreeder, DeepArt, help learners to be able to do this. So this variant of AI actually opens up boundless opportunities for creativity, enticing students to explore their artistic talents and express themselves in an entirely digital setting. As educators, we can harness these tools to stimulate our students' creativity, fostering new avenues of self-expression. Generative AI tools have multiple advantages beyond just creating the art or creating art. They can also improve language skills and visual learning skills as well. In the area of visual learning skills, we have Midjourney and DALL-E. These tools, for instance, generate images based on written descriptions and data sets. So imagine that in that same instance, instead of actually providing those two images to be combined and producing what you wanted to see, you can actually express yourself and say that in a prompt saying, this is how you want to see maybe Kwame Nkrumah riding on a bicycle in front of the Flagstaff House, and that will be generated for you to see. So you can maybe take note of some of these ones and maybe try your hands on them. So for developing content, not only do you have to actually go Googling and trying to find or searching to find that particular image you want to use in the area of, or in your delivery of education, or maybe in that particular project, but you can put in that descriptive text and it will provide you with that image that you're looking for. So moreover, generative AI tools have significant impact. So like I mentioned, they have significant impact on content creation. So OpenAI's GPT-3, now GPT-4, known as our ChatGPT, the famous ChatGPT, has been used to generate educational content, including textbooks, lesson plans, and interactive tutorials, just as was demonstrated here. These tools help educators create up-to-date and personalized educational material by leveraging the vast knowledge available on the internet. By automating content creation, generative AI tools save educators a lot of time, allowing them to focus on more instructional activities and student engagement. Generative AI tools are highly effective in creating real-world simulations, which offer students immersive and practical learning experiences. AI-powered virtual reality applications enable students to explore complex concepts and engage in experimentation without risk. For example, medical students can perform surgical procedures in virtual reality simulations. Engineers as well can design and test virtual prototypes. These simulations offer a safe and interactive environment that enhances students' understanding and prepares them for a real world or for a world of challenges. Moreover, generative AI tools foster critical thinking and problem-solving skills by presenting open-ended challenges that encourage creative thinking, information analysis, and innovative solution development. A typical example is the IBM Watson Debate Tool. The IBM Watson Debate Tool is one of such platforms that stimulates critical thinking by enabling students to engage in debates with AI-powered opponents. Through these debates, students learn to articulate their arguments effectively consider multiple perspectives, and evaluate the strengths and weaknesses of different viewpoints. So, with this particular tool, what it means is that if at any point in time when you have an argument or you want to make a strong point, you can practice with this particular tool and then have some good understanding of the different perspectives of how to lay out your argument. So, the examples of these generative AI tools and their benefits in education are expanding. They are ever expanding. In a period of 6 months, actually, statistics were generated that over 1,000 generative AI tools were developed within a period of just 6 months. And this was done quite recently. So, they are ever expanding. By incorporating these tools into the educational landscape, educators can empower today's learners to thrive in the 21st century. Now, to talk about the drawbacks of AI and technology in education delivery. Having described these mouth-watering benefits of technology and AI in education delivery, I must be quick to add that they are not without challenges or drawbacks. The African or Ghanaian setting as you know it already suggests to your mind difficulties that may arise with the use of these AI-integrated technological tools and platforms. In the next subsections, I will describe some of these notable challenges. I'll first want to talk about the digital divide and the inequitable access that comes along, or challenge that comes along with these tools and platforms. In today's interconnected world, technology and artificial intelligence, like we described earlier, have the potential to bridge the access gap between the developed and the developing worlds. However, the reality is that the disparities in access to technology and knowledge of its use, along with limited internet connectivity, contribute to the expansion of the digital divide, leading to inequitable access to quality education. So in as much as we are trying to bridge that divide of getting access to quality education, there is still that existence of the digital divide that is further separating both worlds. So in tackling this challenge, governments and organizations have the opportunity to implement initiatives aimed at bridging that digital divide. One way to achieve this is to provide subsidies or incentives for internet connectivity, making it more affordable and accessible to students and communities. Furthermore, the creation of community technology centers can function as hubs where people can access technology and receive training on its usage. By collaborating with telecommunication companies, governments can also work towards expanding internet coverage in remote and underserved areas. This will ensure that all learners have equal access to online educational resources. In Ghana, several measures have been taken to address this digital divide. For instance, during the period of the COVID, quite a number of telecommunications industries or companies came on board to help various educational institutions to be able to provide learners some free access to some selected open educational resources as long as they were using their network. This initiative gave students the chance to learn from high quality educational materials, hence reducing the gap between those who have internet connectivity and those who don't. It is essential to acknowledge that numerous initiatives are usually aimed at well-established urban institutions, leaving behind those that are actually struggling with the digital divide. Even though computer labs and even though sometimes computer labs and other digital infrastructures are established in these areas, for example, in rural settings, they may not effectively address the digital deficit due to insufficient support and monitoring. In the light of this, it is very crucial that we do not only provide these digital tools in rural areas or in these areas, but we also equip the residents of these communities with the necessary knowledge and skills to use these resources effectively. One approach in doing this is actually to develop training programs that empower learners and educators with the necessary digital skills. These programs can educate individuals on how to actually use the technology that has been provided, and as well as promote digital literacy and competency. By also recognizing and rewarding those who demonstrate the application of this knowledge, we can further encourage the use of technology in these areas, especially in the field of education. The next drawback that I would like to describe is the issue that has to do with pedagogical adaptation in teacher training. This is a challenge that affects the area of education, especially education delivery, when using technological tools or tools that are integrated with AI as well. While some educators have gained some basic literacy, digital literacy skills, especially during the experiences of the COVID-19 pandemic, there is a significant difference between knowing how to use a tool and knowing how to use that tool to teach effectively. Merely using that tool for content delivery without tapping into its potential for innovative pedagogy limits its impact on student learning. So statistics, for example, indicate that many educators used tools such as the Zoom, our Google Meet, and other learning management systems as a means of just transmitting content to students. It was very much in more like a one-way communication channel, where basically the instructors were more or less like the sage on the stage and not necessarily a guide on the side. This practice is what we often refer to as shovelware. It does not take into consideration the various pedagogical methods that these tools actually afford them. For example, platforms like Zoom offer breakout rooms to allow for collaborative learning, allows for polling to achieve some student or learner feedback. It also allows for private conversations even between students and educators. All these features allow for pedagogical methods which are more immersive and engaging. To address this challenge, comprehensive teacher training programs should be implemented, focusing on digital literacy, technological integration, and innovative instructional strategies. To the third drawback, there are some ethical concerns and data privacy that come with integrating innovative tools and AI tools in the area of education delivery. While the utilization of data is very important, the integration of these tools in education brings forth some ethical concerns that revolve around data privacy and security. What is my data being used for? we are gathering data concerning the students to be able to provide personalized learning. What is this data being used for? In whose hands? Or who actually monitors this data? One of the main obstacles surrounding this is to guarantee responsible and privacy complaint collection and utilization of data, while also educating learners and educators about the reasons and the significance of data collection. So it is important that actually the learners, the educators, get to understand the importance of actually gathering this data and then come up with policies concerning how this data is supposed to be protected. It is vital to ensure that algorithms employed in AI systems are also not biased, as it may result in discrimination and unfair treatment on the side of learners. Furthermore, it is important to implement best practices to enhance data security. Robust security measures, including encryption, access controls, should also be implemented to protect students' data. Initiatives such as the development of comprehensive data protection policies, privacy impact assessments, and ongoing training programs for educators on data privacy and security can help address this challenge. So the very final challenge, which is an issue that there is a growing concern about the potential overdependence on technology and AI, which may lead to the decline in our imagination and creativity and critical thinking skills. The advent of these generative AI tools, just like we witnessed, such as OpenAI's ChatGPT, raises worries among educators that learners would rely on these technologies, rendering them proficient at obtaining results, but lacking in creative thinking and imagination. These concerns extend to educators who also fear that their roles might be replaced by these tools, causing them to have some job insecurity. As a response to these fears, there have been proposals to ban the use of generative AI tools in education. However, it is important to consider the lessons that history has taught us when faced with similar apprehensions. For instance, when search engines were first introduced, there were concerns that learners would abandon libraries and traditional sources of information. Yet, as at this time, we haven't. Libraries are still being used. The integration of technology into education has not entirely displaced the traditional methods, but has instead become a valuable resource that aids in initial information retrieval. In addition to drawing from historical lessons, striking a balance between technology, the use of technology, and human connection is crucial in the field of education. It is vital to underscore the significance of face-to-face interactions and socio-emotional learning in fostering holistic development of students. Educators must recognize that students cannot have a holistic development of students without human contact. So considering the capabilities of generative AI tools, educators need to be more mindful of the types of assessments and the learning experiences that learners are exposed to. Encouraging collaborative projects, discussions, and group activities that promote interaction and creativity can help maintain the human connection within the learning process. By embracing technology and AI as valuable tools while upholding the importance of human connection, educators can actually navigate these challenges that we've just described. In conclusion, the state and status of technology and AI in education delivery bring both incredible benefits and noteworthy challenges. Let us embrace technology and AI as tools to enhance education, keeping in mind that they are a means to an end and not an end in themselves. By combining the power of technology with the wisdom and guidance of educators and leveraging best practices, we can create a future where education is accessible, personalized, engaging, and transformative for all. Thank you for joining me on this exploration on the state and status of technology and AI in education delivery, with a focus on its benefits and challenges. I encourage us all to continue in the conversation, that we should share ideas and work together towards an inclusive and empowering educational system. Thank you.
We thank our speakers. But now we have to do the public forum, which means that we must let the public also speak to our speakers through question and answers. So we'll do that. It's not on the program, but we need to do that. So when we do that, then I'll conclude. So it's question and answer time. Please, Fred, go around, and people who want to ask you, introduce yourself, and then you ask a question to either Dr. Sriku or Eli Kilson.
Please, if you have a question, you raise your hand and then we'll bring you the mic. Okay. Should I start? Hello, good evening. I'm Gideon Nicholas Sagbeka. I'm from Radio Universe, University of Ghana. So I've spoken to a number of experts, educationists, and then even lecturers about this ChatGPT, AIs, and generating answers for us. And most of the things that they've always said is that we need to change the way we approach, the way we set questions, the way we approach education and everything. Then you are maybe considering practical questions. But when we talk about practical questions, how are our studies, the way we teach students, even practicable for them to be able to answer these practical questions that we are pushing for? So if we are pushing for a more elaborate way of getting students to answer questions, then we should start by also putting in place how, start from maybe the classrooms, how practical are teaching, and then we move forward. So my question simply is, if we are moving away from ChatGPT and telling people to move away from that, then what kind of questions are we going to set, and how are students going to tackle some of these questions? Thank you.
Would we get more? I thought there was another question.
Good evening, and I say thank you, and I really appreciate the presentations that have been made. My name is Professor Richmond Aite, University of Ghana. So my first question is to Prof. Katriku. It looks like from the data that you have shared, the West is really ahead of us in this, and we have to play catch up. The only way we can catch up is to leapfrog. Where do you see as the opportune places where we can really leapfrog? Otherwise, we are currently still doing brick and mortar, trying to keep expanding, but it doesn't look like we can catch up by expanding brick and mortar. So what do you see as the key points that we need to be investing in our education, the way we think, infrastructure as well? What kind of things should we be investing in? Then to Dr. Kilson, you talked about policy. You know, in our current system, education system, there are different agencies and institutions that are involved in education, right from the basic level to tertiary. Which institutions and what kind of policies should happen across the different levels? And for me, I think integration is also an important thing, because we may start at one level and then we may not be able to integrate it well. How should we do the integration of policies across the various levels so that we can see real change as you have described? Thank you.
Hello, my name is Michael Johnson, MSc student, University of Ghana. My question is, I would like to first appreciate the in-depth presentation that have been done by both presenters. My question is simply this: there's this new discussion about AI, and then I've read a lot about how the Western world are calling their innovators and thinkers to leverage on that. So my question is, how can we as African countries or as Ghana leverage on the AI to fight corruption in our public sector? We as learners, how should we position ourselves to take advantage of that to introduce the changes that we seek? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the presentation. My name is Osborne. I'm a student from University of Ghana. Please, my question is, so currently in our part of the world, there is always the perception that students from schools do not fit into the job market. So students who come out of school, when they try to enter the industries or the job market, they have some challenges. So I would like to know, how can these AI tools or technologies help us solve this canker that we are facing?
that ChatGPT can respond to, and give questions that ChatGPT will fail, so that the humans can ask their real questions. That was one question that was asked. We'll take that.
All right, thank you. This is a very difficult question, and I believe this is for departments of education to come up and help us find ways of addressing these issues. This research is not something that we can just give from the top of our heads. But the work that my colleague, my former student did from Asma University, he did actually trick ChatGPT. He posed a question, I think 5 plus 10, and ChatGPT correctly responded that it was 15. So I said, no, it's not 15, it's 19. So ChatGPT said, I'm sorry, I gave you the wrong answer. You know, so there are ways of tricking it. However, on a more serious note, of late, if you ask my students, I no longer tend to ask them questions where they can just find the information for me. Actually tell them, I give them the information. So for example, I tell, okay, mobile systems are known for doing this, and that. So I tell you every information you need to know. So my question is, but why do you think that is the case? So I tend to ask questions on why. Why do you think? So the answer, in terms of the knowledge, fundamental knowledge, I tell you, this is the thing. But why do you think? So I'm expecting something from you and some open-ended question. But this is just my way. This is not being backed by any research or studies, but I think that our educational departments, Department of Education, are the ones who should be leading in this. You know, doing the research, coming out with the results, telling us, okay, these are the best ways to do it. Thank you.
Probably let me just add a few more. Yes, concerning that, I remember very well that when I was introduced to ChatGPT, seeing what it could do, after 1 week I had to change all my assessments. Most of the assessments I used to give to my student, I had to go through my slides, take all those things out, and I asked myself the same question, so what do I give them now? First, so remember 3 C's that have guided me. One, provide assessments or provide things that have context. Context as in, imagine if there was a gathering here, like today, based on what has been shared. Can you give, for example, 3 principles, or can you summarize? Obviously, ChatGPT was not here while we were having this meeting, and so obviously ChatGPT cannot summarize. Unless you want to go and tell ChatGPT everything we've done, then ChatGPT cannot do that. So provide context. Anything that happens in a real class situation, what you shared, can you provide context? That is number 1. Number 2, critical thinking. Is there anything that would actually require personal and critical thinking? If it involves critical thinking, most of the time, you find ChatGPT having some biases. For example, if I ask you, for example, between Man U and I pick another football team, and I say which one is better, obviously, there's a possibility that it could be a bias. ChatGPT probably may not be able to provide you with answers that require some critical thinking, especially. And also the 3rd C is that collaborative tasks. Things that do not require only one person to sit down to do, but things that require 2, 3, 4, a number of people coming together. That way, when we come together, then we know that we're not going to leave the task just for ChatGPT, because we feel that have those egos, and we feel like we should put in a little bit of our thought process. Thank you. I think that has to do with the first question. Thank you.
The third question, the second question, I believe, is about leapfrogging, that we are behind. You showed us where are we? And in that process, you talked about the use of literature as the publications as your index of where we are. The question that he asked was, where are the key points that can be used to leapfrog or to catch up?
Again, this is quite a difficult question, but there will only be suggestions as to what can possibly be done. One, I don't think that going the brick and mortar way will get us there. Because given our developmental processes, the finances that are available, it will be difficult. I think we can rather leverage on these developments in technology and use them effectively. But to do that, what it means is that the instructors must be given time to actually develop these materials that can then be used over and over again. Students can have access to them. So in every region, every village, every district, there will be special places where students can go and access the internet to get the training that they require. That way we can substantially expand upon what we are giving to the students. If you take Legon, for example, thousands of students apply, we're only able to take few. Right? And imagine we can open up this to them and they can have access to the same quality of education that those who are on campus are getting. They can get it in their homes. Then they don't need to come to campus. Right? So we can do these things, but there must be thoughts. It shouldn't just be done haphazardly. Like happened during the COVID time, we were forced to go online, we were not prepared, very well prepared. There were instances where lecturers would upload a 2-hour video for students to watch. It's boring, they will not. There must be lecturers must be brought to speed as to how to deliver education with this new technology effectively. If we can do it, I believe that we can catch up. But there needs to be some research on that.
The third question, I wasn't sure I heard it 100%, but it sounded like it was about how do we leverage AI to fight corruption. Did I get it right? All right. Then there was a second part too. What was the second part? Did you hear him? All right. So who wants to take it?
Okay. All right.
So how do you leverage technology, AI, to fight corruption? The second part.
Okay. So this is a hard one because, right. But I think we can start from somewhere. Like you mentioned earlier on, is that we have to understand that we can't start it from where the developed worlds are starting from. We can only leverage on the existing tools that have currently been deployed. So we pick on corruption is something that is very local to us. I mean, the kind of, when I say local, the way it is done probably in Ghana is completely different from the way it is done in different parts of the world. And so it requires that we have to be open-minded. Are we willing to actually fight this? If then we are willing to fight this, can we go ahead and even set the policies in place while we also engage institutions and other educational bodies to engage in this research concerning what to do for a particular sector? Take, for example, now to pick on an example would be as if I'm biased, but okay, I'll leave that one out. But pick any example in any industry, and then let it be that we go study the processes, find out the loopholes, and ask how we can actually leverage on the existing technologies, the existing algorithms that have been implemented to fight corruption in that area. AI does it, and it has been applied elsewhere, and so we can also do it. Only that our situation may be different. That is one. Thank you.
I was just exactly what he has said. There must be a willingness to fight corruption. I recall an instance where an institution asked us to develop an application for them to streamline some admission process. And after we had done that job, they said, okay, is there any way we can go behind and change things? So they were not really willing to change. Right? They were not really willing to change. So there must be a willingness on our part to actually do things correctly. I mean, in most of Western Europe today, Britain in particular, there is practically every institution, the only way you can access them is through online. It can either be, voice activated services and everything. You hardly ever get to speak to a human being. Everything is computerized. It's not something that we cannot do. I mean, we have the capabilities, given the opportunity. Our young guys in the university can develop those systems, but are we willing to implement them? That's the question.
The fourth question was about the use of AI tools. I didn't get it 100%, so maybe you can, if you had, do you remember what he said? How can AI tools be
help solve the problem of student
entry into the job market? Okay, sure. Please go ahead.
Right. That concerning entry into the job market, two things AI can do. There are lots more, but two things AI can do. AI can help students know the options when it comes to their career path. With the use of AI or with the use of technological tools, from the word go, based on your past experience, you can actually engage it to be able to tell where your career or what options exist for you. And then where you realize that there are some lapses concerning maybe, for example, yes, you have done this and this, but you are missing out at maybe databases, understanding databases, or maybe concerning some management, then it can recommend for you some courses you have to take so that
you can then be well prepared concerning that job you're preparing for or you're planning to take. That's one way AI can prepare or can help actually prepare us for the job market. That is number one. Number two, AI also can point you into help you with the where actually to get those lessons. For example, he pointed out how AI helped in writing even a code to dealing with a particular problem. So it can also point you to say that if you need this resource, here's where you can get it. Or this has been done by this person, that has been done by this person. And I can use my students as an example. Over the last like 3, 4, 5 years, we've been basically training them for remote jobs. Not really focusing so much on jobs in here. We focus more on how, as much as possible, either they're going to be self-employed or they are going to work remotely with another company elsewhere. So can you prepare them, give them the skills that they need? And what has actually helped us to find out areas where they would, what they would need is basically through AI. And so we've taught them coding, we have taught them a number of skills, and now most of them are working from home. Quite a number of them are working from home, from my department. Thank you.
Thank you. You want to add to this?
Just a little thing to add there. There's one danger. Today in Western Europe, in the wake of the emergence of this ChatGPT, a lot of businesses are looking into how to employ ChatGPT to do the work. Because we train students for the job market, we equip them with analytical skills. Now, ChatGPT can do those things. So there's some danger here. So apart from what he has said, in terms of, the sort of things that I think the emphasis should be on entrepreneurial skills so that you can set up your own businesses. Because most of the opportunities will be closed. The things that you normally were employed to do, they'll get ChatGPT to do it for them. And they can do it in a fraction of the time, faster. So we need to be careful.
Thank you. We are going to do a second round, but I understand that there are some questions online from our online participants. Who can get some of that for us? Lecha, can we get some of the online questions? So whilst he's getting that ready, we can do the second round of questions. Fred.
All right, thank you. My name is Fiangui Manoleje from Accra College of Education. Please, my question actually goes to Professor Kachikwu on what you mentioned about the holoportation. And I want to ask how well positioned or how are we positioned to welcome this? Because it almost appears that when the COVID came, as a student in the college, I had the chance to do some online studies. But when we saw that the COVID is running away, we also kind of ran away from the online studies. So it's more or less like we are almost always waiting for something to pop up before we see the alternative. And if we could see the admission that we are cutting the numbers, we could see that there are a lot of people that want to access education, but because of the numbers we are cutting off, they are not getting the chance to go to the colleges or even the universities. And for the holoportation, even if we see the intro, we could see that it is something that could actually help. So is there any way that we can prepare ourselves for this, that maybe in the next 5-10 years, we can be able to integrate this into our education system and be able to take more students? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Elsiefa Kaufman, University of Ghana. My concern has to do with bias and applicability of what we have in these AI systems to our circumstances. Prof. Kachikwu, you mentioned that we are contributing so little already. We know that these AI systems need large databases to be trained. And so if we have that little of a contribution to what we are all generating, how sure are we that the things that we are exposing our learners to is actually relevant to us and will benefit us? Who is setting the values for us? That is my concern. And what can we do about it? How can we encourage ourselves to contribute more so that when these systems are built, they actually reflect our realities as well?
Thank you. My name is Richard Densu from the University of Ghana. So I find that in the advanced countries like US, the AI experts actually went forward to the politicians to regulate them. And they didn't wait for the politicians to come to them. And we find that the same way here. If we say we're going to wait till the government approaches us or begins to fund it and all of that, we may wait for a long time. So what can we do? What can the academia do to get the government to be actively interested in the AI and start the issue of policy, funding, and all the other things that we expect the government to collaborate with academia on? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Sophistina, Accra College of Education. I just want to make a comment. Going back to the classroom, talking about pedagogy. So I just think that is something beautiful. But when we look at it, I still have some negative aspect of artificial intelligence tools, because when we just look at the time that we didn't have internet, then we take books, we read to get the information. So look at the time we have internet, then where these tools are supposed to facilitate the development of critical thinking and problem-solving skills, it doesn't. Then you will see the cut and paste. So where is the facilitation? It's that we refuse to get the skills developed using the tools. So I still see the same thing. So in this way, how prepared are we as learners or as educators to prepare our learners that they are using these tools to further develop certain skills and not just to the opposite side? So my concern is, how do we do that? How do we do that as educators so that they are well prepared, they're using the tools to develop further skills and not to go the opposite way with that? Thank you very much. So I agree that we need rethinking in education.
All right.
It's not on.
Okay. All right. I think there was one question that we missed in the first set of questions that had to do with, I think the gentleman is stepping out, so maybe we'll skip and go to the next. Yeah. Right. So concerning the question you raised, I believe that yes, we have seen the experiences of before, during COVID, after COVID, we have seen that. But that is why we have to conscientize ourselves that we have to develop a culture of technology in the delivery of education. It must be very intentional. it must be intentional. If not, would only pick it up as a tool as and when there is a pandemic and then go back. So it calls for both educators and learners to incorporate technology intentionally. So assignments that probably could have been written now probably ask that they should, type them out. They learn typing skills through that. And when they even finish typing them out, they should add references. They learn how to search. And so many other things that you can actually add to make them imbue these technological skills so that it becomes a culture. That is the very first question. Do you want to take that?
I'll take the second one on the bias in data sets. I think there was another one on holoportation.
There was one on relevance.
Relevance of holoportation.
No, relevance of, you have all these tools, you have all these tools, you have lots of stuff on the internet and so on. How do you make sure that the students get relevant information?
That is based on the kind of data sets that we have. Yeah. It's a real problem. The point is that we are not collecting enough data. And if we don't collect the data, we simply don't have it. And there's nothing we can do. And that may be because we don't see its importance. And there was a question about how do we engage governments to see the relevance of this. Somehow we need to, because these things must be funded. Okay, as I speak, our department is engaged in an exercise to collect data. It's being led, a project being led by Professor Wiafe and Dr. Jamal, where we are collecting speech data for 5 languages. It's a huge data set that we are trying to collect, or they are trying to collect. But then the funding is limited, right? So they can only do so much. And but if they succeed, it will mean that a lot of information will now be available to Ghanaians in their own languages. They can interact with computers speaking either Twi, Ewe, Iposo, or any other language that we have the data sets on, right? But without the funding, it only goes so far, and then it will dry up. So the question that was posed on how we can get government to be interested in this development, to see the relevance, but I also think that this should also fall within the remit of the chief government scientific advisor, because they should be advising governments on future directions, the things that they should be interested in, where the investment should be going, right? If we get that from that level, well, I don't know whether the government is a chief scientific advisor, which is the director of CSIR. I don't know how seriously they take them, but then if they do, then that is where they should be getting the advice from, directing policy that, look, we need to invest in this because this is where the world is going. So yes, the question is valid, it's a real problem, but the solution is not easy.
Okay, so to the third question. So the third question, I was just going to add. Okay, so I think he has touched a bit on that, how to actually get the government. I believe that we should learn the lessons once again from history. A lot of things have been done in the past where most of the time we want to start it big. We want to do, an institution wants to probably do, provide a solution in a certain space. It is launched in a very big, under a big name, under a big project, and then all of us, over a short period of time, we do not really see the relevance of it, and we drop it and we pick another one. I think we should do the reverse, where institutions actually try the impact in their small spaces. So if we can start, for example, if maybe we gather data here, and we gather data concerning helping data that was relevant to the people in here, how can we implement the data here? And then when we have that relevance, it will become very easy to scale up or actually go out and have
a good conversation with government concerning what you have already done in your quarters than doing the other way around. I have an idea, we rush to the government. And that is why sometimes they may not have taken us serious. Because they think we have potential, yes, but we have not demonstrated the potential in our local spaces. So unless our local spaces are able to feel the impact of our institutions, they will not think that maybe government and other institutions or other funding agencies may not take us serious. So let's start first with that, and probably we can see the change. Thank you.
Then the fourth question about problem-solving skills. How do you use AI to enhance problem-solving skills of your students? Correct?
Right. Okay, I hope you didn't hear that. Right, so I go back on that point where I say that we should develop that culture. We should intentionally have that culture of technology. It is important. In as much as we realize that people are maybe shying away from books now, they are doing the copy and paste. How can you be very intentional in bringing still critical thinking in your lectures? So it really means that on the side of the educator or then the side of the instructor, you do a lot of planning before you actually go to deliver your class. You think about activities, collaborative activities, exercises, things that people can engage in that would prevent them from just doing the copy and paste. For example, imagine if you were going to select some specific paragraphs in a particular book, and then after having read them, come out with various suggestions as to what the paragraph was trying to say, and then ask students to state which one of them they would like to, which of the points or which of the perspectives they would like to align with, and defend why they want to align with that particular point. Then it requires it's a laborious task to just take it and just present it to, once again, ChatGPT. So it requires that now we have to sit down and think, do a lot of thinking, plan our lessons very well before we actually go and do these things. I think that has been cut. Yeah, thank you.
So now let's look behind us and see if you can respond to the questions that have been posed online. One from Nikweno. It says GPT hallucinates some. All right. It gives bogus answers. What are the recommendations to contain this risk?
This is, thank you very much for this question, Nikweno. This is one of the challenges or the limitations of ChatGPT or limitations of generative AI, which we must make sure that our students or make sure that users of ChatGPT or generative AI are aware of. So it is true, that is true. And it doesn't mean that we should now train ChatGPT to be able to give us the correct answers. Rather, on the other side, we should note that we don't have to be overly reliant on them. Yes, I think that will be a summarized answer for that. So we should know the limitations and not be overly reliant on these answers. Thank you.
Right. With the large, yes, this is also another problem. I have over 1,000 students in my level 100 class. If I was going to assess them, 2 assessments, 3, how am I going to do that? It's not feasible. So it's a real problem. But then I believe that if we are given the time to actually understand and learn and use these technologies, then we could ask these technologies to do the assessments for us. That way, we can overcome this challenge. So that's the thing. The thing is to then bring in the technology on board to help us but then it needs time. The instructors need to become conversant with the new systems, how to use them, how to use them effectively. And that's one way. Other than that, we can't do it.
If you permit me just to add a little. So like you correctly mentioned, that happens. I think give a typical example. You have a class of 1,000 or maybe imagine they were even 5,000, but you want to be able to give them assignments which are involve critical thinking. Put them in, for example, you could put them into groups and then encourage peer review. So this group reviews this group, or this group reviews 2 or 3 other groups, and then present a report on what they think. And learning management systems can help us do that. The technology can help us do that. It helps us with the grouping. It can help us to create a forum or where students can put posts and share their comments on other people's posts. And then when you are done, all you need to do is to pick the general post that came out, and to really help you to deal with large student classes. So large student classes is still possible with technology. Thank you.
I think we have gotten a very good introduction to AI in educational delivery. And these are just teasing things for us to begin to search deeper. Our speaker has been very, very good, and they've responded very well to the questions, but it's getting late. So I want to thank you all for your patience and for staying for so long. Thank you very much. And we'll see you tomorrow, hopefully. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. We have come to the end of today's session. Tomorrow, we'll have another exciting session, and the subtopic for tomorrow is the ethics and regulation of artificial intelligence in education. The ethics and regulation of artificial intelligence in education. And we are going to have another pair of speakers speak on this topic, and then there will be an open forum for questions and answers as usual. So join us again tomorrow for this for these presentations. And it will be the same time at 5:30 p.m. here in the auditorium and online. I want to acknowledge our students here from Accra College of Education who have made time to join us for today's program. I hope we'll see you again tomorrow and on Wednesday as well. Let's give them a hand. Thank you. And actually, you need to learn about AI a lot, because it affects your education in so many ways. So I do hope that we'll see you back here tomorrow. I want to also thank all our invited guests who have been here with us this evening. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to having you again tomorrow. To our Academy fellows who are here and online, we'd like to thank you also for your participation. We hope to have you join us again tomorrow, and then the third and last day. There is refreshment that will be served right after we leave, so please make sure that you refresh yourself before you leave. Thank you very much. Now, please stand while the chair and the speakers leave the room. Thank you.